I'm curious what a week in the life looks like. Like you've got kids, you're dropping your kids off, you've got a place you can chat at home. Are you still doing the weekly thing at the Spud? I'm always seeing the Insta footage. Yeah, like take me through a week if you're willing.
Well, the Spud thing it was a monthly thing that I started in the summer of 2022. No, actually, no. December 21, 2021 is when I started that, and that was like a monthly thing. But I haven't gotten called to do it anymore since October because the scheduling there it varies. The owner is very old school with the way he books the baked potato. So I don't know when I'm gonna be there next. so a week in my shoes, man. Monday, I wake up, take out the trash if I haven't taken it the night before. Uh, I get in a little skirmish with the wife, and then no, I'm just kidding. So I get the kids ready with my wife. We either go drop them off together, or I go by myself. But when we go together, it's because we go get breakfast together and coffee, and we kind of have like a little morning date on Mondays. We had been doing that consistently. We didn't do it today, obviously, but and then after that, I practice for probably like 2 hours. Then I get ready to go. So I have a side hustle that more people are starting to find out about my side hustle. I do medical interpreting in the workers' comp field, which is another way of saying translating for patients from Spanish to English, English to Spanish. So I kind of segue the relationship between the doctor and the patient. So I do that about 3 times a week. It's kind of like my part time, you could say. So I do that for a couple hours, then come back. I pick up my son. That's just Monday. And then I spend time with the family. We cook dinner or what have you. And then usually I'll hit the practice spot around my basement. I just walk downstairs and I'll be there probably from like 9:30 to 2 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Just practicing. And then I wake up and around 6:30, do it all over again.
That reminds me of
That's like 3 days out of the week. Friday, I teach all day. Oh, I started teaching all day this last Friday. And if I don't have any lessons on Friday, I'll usually, if I don't have any gigs or anything like that, or I have to travel, I try, bro, to practice all day on a Friday, like from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. kind of thing, 10,
yeah.
11, 12, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like a good 6, 7 hours.
What are you working on when you practice these days? Is it material focused stuff for like bands you're in, or is it just continual drum development things, or a mixture of both?
It's definitely a mixture of both. However, it's more a percentage. So if I were to put it into a percentage, 80% of what I practice now is more for the music that I play, music for my bands, or music for other people that I have to internalize, whether it be for a session or for a show. And then the other 20% is me still trying to find the holes and spaces in music while practicing to music in my headphones. So yeah, 20% of it, because I haven't hit the drum books probably since last year, and this year has been more practicing to music. And I like to practice to music a lot. I'll just, I have like my go-to albums that I practice to, and I still try to find like where within the subdivision grid I can phrase, whether I go into a phrase or I come out of a phrase. I always try to find all those holes and spaces and gaps, which to me is what excites me at this point. You know, uh, chops, you could say. I like to call them phrases and combinations. They don't really excite me anymore, as opposed to how I can apply them within the spaces of music. So the placement, I guess you could say, is what I'm all about these days. And it's just by default that my speed keeps getting faster, and it just, my velocity and my rate and my my attack to the drums just keeps getting better. Obviously, because I'm still working on my hands every day. You know what I mean? Like it's a price to pay, Nate. Like, you reach a certain level where you have to maintain the level, but at the same time, you want to keep progressing and getting better and jumping the next hurdle and jumping the hurdle. It's like, oh, I've reached Mount Everest. I'm at the top. Now it's like, well, what do I do? Like, that's not exciting anymore. So what do? You try to find the next big mountain or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what I practice these days, is how to find the spaces in music and how to just personally get better. And then the other 80% working on music that I have to work on. Especially because we're going to record a new album with Covality. So that's kind of like where the time goes too.
Yeah. How would you say your time breaks down amongst the bands you're playing with? Like you're about to record with Covality. What other projects do you have? Like, what would you say, like in an average month, the breakdown is there?
Dude, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, wow. I would probably say about 2 hours a day for the Covality stuff, where I just sit down by myself and try to do songwriting and composition, because that's kind of like my main focus right now. Because we've been recording it by parts. I already did 3. The song has 9. The album has 9 songs. One of those is just acoustic. The other 8, it has drums. I already did 3. We're gonna go in April to record another 2, and then around June or July we're gonna record the last 3. So that's how, because the music is so complex, and it requires a lot of energy. So that's why we broke it down like that. Because the last album, bro, I did it all in one day, 7 songs in one day, and that was brutal, dude. Oh my god, we got there at 6 a.m. and didn't leave probably till like 9-10 p.m. Doing all 7 songs. And these are long compositions, man. Long compositions, crazy time signature changes, solos, improv. Like there's the improv, there's improv. And I told the guys, like, bro, I'm never doing this again. So now we broke it down this way, where I'm doing 2 hours, 2 hours every other day, where I work on the music. And then all the other hours are spent on learning music for like where I'm a side man. So that's probably like another hour and a half or another 2 hours of my time every other day, you could say, or every day, where I need to learn material for other people. But I'm trying to not do that no more these days. I'm trying to do more of my thing, whether it be my bands or me as an artist. I want to write music for myself as well. You know what I'm saying? As Andy Prado. So I still haven't started doing that, but I want to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's been right now. And we meet up once or twice a week with the guys from Covality to piece everything together, to make sure the drum parts are cohesive and make sense with the songwriting. And once we feel like that's done, then we start getting together to rehearse it. And if there's a show, then that's even better, because we get to play the music in a show. And so we have to have all this ready by April, man, because we hit the studio again in April.
It's something I've talked about with a few other people, but the idea of going from playing a bunch of random gigs where you're getting paid a little bit here and there, and actually you have less time to focus on developing your own thing, to maybe having some kind of a side hustle, so you don't have to worry about all those little gigs for money, and then you can kind of have a single focus. I think that's a really smart approach.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very amazing way to put it, Nate. You are very, very peculiar with the way you
huh? You too.
And it's like, you think so, you do this so much, you think so fast. Like, oh, I just heard everything Andy said in 5 minutes. Let me do it in 30 seconds. What you do, that's how I look at it too. It's obviously I do music full time. However, I also have my my little part-time thing that I do that has nothing to do with music. And yes, that definitely allows me to pick what I want to do. I don't want to be, doing bar things like every every day. My bad. This is Ray G.
This is an explicit podcast, by the way. You can swear if you need to.
I'm trying so hard not to swear anymore, man. I'm like, I
Anything
look
is
at, dude,
fine.
every day I get on my knees. I'm like, God, help me take care of this tongue today. Like, let me be no, I still cuss. I cuss a lot, but I don't want to cuss right now. Yeah, so I definitely get to choose my battles, and I love that. I love the freedom. I get to do pretty much whatever I want now in music, man, because I have all these things where I don't have to worry about money, And then my job, and then my wife has a great career too. She works from home, so I'm just lucky and I'm blessed and I'm grateful that all these things have fallen into place where I can really focus on not just music that I want out there, but also on the crafts. Because I'm still, if you talk to anyone, man, I'm still trying to push and still trying to get better and still trying to be the best version of myself on the drums and off the drums too. But I just love the art, the finding new things on the drums is exciting. So that's kind of how it is in the being in my shoes, being in my on a weekly basis. And I mean, you know how it is, bro. Like shows and gigs always come up like just randomly. Every day there's like a call, or every day there's like, hey man, you open for this? You're gonna do this. So you just gotta be ready for whatever call you get. However, I do have the option of choosing.
Yeah, options are so important.
Yeah, and these days I choose more of the crazy things I want to play.
Yeah. It feels like probably there's a time in your career when it's important to say yes to a lot of things, and then when you're no longer learning and growing from those things, then it's important to start saying no and curating things.
Absolutely.
And, choosing your opportunities more. One of the most interesting things about you to me as a player is you sort of chose the hardest bucket to specialize in. Like, I'm not saying it's cope, but there are a lot of drummers who are like, oh, I'm not going to do chops, man. I'm just going to be a groove player. And like, that's cool. But you, as I understand it from a very young age, were like, I see Dennis Chambers. I want that. I want to do that. And that style of playing, there's no faking it. And people are going to criticize you harshly until you can really do it well. And then there's going to be a certain percentage of people who hate on you once you can do it well, because you're just a chopper.
So true. So true.
One thing I'm interested to hear is like, you teach students and you probably have people who follow your socials because of some of the video clips and the displays you put on. What do you think is the thing that an aspiring drummer who sees what you do and wants to be able to do it from a technical standpoint, what do you think is the biggest thing that they misunderstand about what it takes to do what you do?
Ooh, I think a big misunderstanding is that it's easy to get to that point. Like it looks easier than what it looks like. Meaning what I've noticed is like everyone wants to do it quickly. I mean, especially where we are now in the TikTok era. It's like you put everything in the microwave and you have it immediately and it's quick. To get to truly to get to a Dennis Chambers, Billy Cobham level, not saying that that's where I'm at, to get to that top tier requires a lot of patience and a lot of sacrifice. And that's what I've been teaching a lot lately too, because especially with advanced drummers, they see what I do and it's appealing, obviously, it's very exciting and I think they think it's easier said than done to get to that level of musical application on the drums. And it's not, it's easy to get fast and it's easy to apply it fast without understanding the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
and the basics. And bro, I think that is what is they are misunderstanding when they see someone like me or someone like Mason or Sharik or Ronald, it's like you look at it from the screen and it looks like eventually it's something I'll be able to do, but to get there, you really have to pay the price in terms of sitting down and applying everything slowly for long periods of time. Like it did, like where I'm at now, man, especially mentally, it took me a long time, like a very long time. Even when you met me, man, in 2016, like, yeah, like, I was doing my thing. I didn't really have an identity yet, or I didn't really truly understand what it is to play music and apply all these crazy things in music, in the musical context. And I think that's what's overlooked, especially from young players, because I was there too. You want to apply it immediately without understanding the why. You know what I mean? You just want to know how, especially when you're young. You just want to know how do you do this? How? But I'm like, have you sat down and asked yourself why though? Why did they play it this way? Why did they decide to place it on the of the three? What the hell? Like if you start asking those deeper philosophical questions, what have you, I think it especially if you can grasp onto that idea at an earlier age, it's gonna help. It's gonna help younger players develop their musical ear a lot quicker. And it's very easy to want to do the flashy thing immediately. Trust me, because I was young too. Like I'm still young, but like, but I don't want to say but too much. That the flashy thing is the easiest thing to wrap your head around immediately and want to do it immediately. However, it does take a lot of patience and time to truly understand the lingo and the language of that style of drumming, you could say. That's one thing. And then applying it to music is another thing. That's a whole other different ballgame. But that's why I say it takes time, and you got to pay the price with patience and with practicing things slow. So I tell my students, don't practice chops just because I want to be fast and I want to do these crazy things. Like sit down with an album, pick any album, and see where you can apply those phrases that you're coming up with. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing. I feel younger players they want to do it immediately. You know what I mean? Which is, it's part of being young too. It's part of growing up. Maturing is part of life.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of risk taking inherent to that style of playing anyway. Like it's not taking a Sunday drive. It's Formula One. It's not being an airline pilot. It's Top Gun.
What do you think when you see what you see? Like, what do you think it takes to get there? Not just from a drumming standpoint, also from a very psychological, spiritual standpoint, because it's a lot, bro. Like,
I feel like I never quite had the singular focus on like the Billy Cobham, Ron Bruner thing as like an all-encompassing goal. And I think you're right. I think to play like those guys, that needs to supersede any other goal you have. And my influences are a little bit more diffuse. I definitely aspire to the sort of gospel chops thing. And I suppose players like Spud or Taron Lockett, Corey Fonville, that sort of thing, where it's kind spanking, maybe it's kind of a mixture of chops and groove. But I also kind of let my whims guide me. Like I feel like as my ability to comprehend stuff has improved, and I'm able to somewhat more wrap my mind around what's happening when I see great players play, then that when I can see the path, sometimes that sparks the interest to go in that direction. So it's like those combos that you and Mason and Mike Mitchell and Ron do. It feels like some portion of it is within comprehension, and then some portion of it is still beyond a little bit. Although I can maybe sort of interpret kind of what's happening. And the fascinating part to me is what you were saying, where it's not just the speed, although the speed's obviously important, but it's also the lingo, like what you're going to say with it. And you can tell me,
because
but it's go ahead.
yeah, no, yeah, because the lingo is so important because the lingo is not just linear. You know, the lingo also has everything to do with where it comes from and where it stems from. Um, we could go all the way back to 40,000 BC, where we're banging these things in Africa, and that's where it comes from. And then it kept evolving and evolving and evolving, and then obviously it ended up being a war instrument. Pretty much, drums are a war instrument, you know. So I think that particular lingo, I think it stems from that sort of preparing for battle, preparing for war, preparing this thing. And if you go further into like the early 1900s, when jazz was starting to become a thing, from from the suffering of African Americans, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it's like an instrument of rebellion, almost like from oppressed people. It's like, fuck you, I'm gonna chop, right?
bro, and that's literally, if you like the way we, and I feel Vinny, Steve Gadd, Tony Williams, like all those guys have that attitude, or had that attitude, like,
Yeah,
fuck you,
exactly.
this is who I am, I'm gonna play it, like,
yes.
if it's aggressive and loud, you don't like it, oh well, you know what I mean? Or if it's too spacey, or like texture exploration into Andromeda, or I'm in like Beetlejuice planting the star, like Elvin Jones, like, or Jeff St. Watts or Chris Dave, like that's the lingo. It's not just lingo vocab wise, which is important, which is what we're talking about too. It's also the lingo vocab, but also the history, like, the transition from period to period to period, from everything we just said right now. And I think that forms a huge part of the way we approach music and the instrument. Obviously our specific personalities also come out. And I think it helps to have personalities like the personalities we have in order to really play like that, because it requires a lot of energy, a lot of energy. So I think that's a good point, bro.
The personality thing's an interesting one, because some drummers you meet are exactly the type of characters you'd imagine when you hear they're playing, like Chad Smith, right? Like when you hear the Chili Peppers, he's exactly the way you would picture him. It's kind of the same with fighters. It's like like the Diaz brothers, like what's his name?
You do UFC. You do Muay Thai, right?
No, I do jiu-jitsu. I don't do any striking.
Oh, jiu-jitsu, that's right.
I just do grappling. Yeah, there's a grappler whose name isn't coming to mind. But he's kind of just like irreverent. He's from East LA. He's got a bunch of tattoos, and then
he's around from where I live. Here, let me come along with me around my house while I get some coffee, because
oh sure, absolutely.
I need my hit. Oh yeah,
you do.
continue.
You do. It's hurting me that you haven't had coffee yet.
Oh, bro, look at that.
There's the setup. Oh, you got the promos with the shaker right there too. So you can make the espresso martinis.
Dude, I got you. When you come to LA, I will personally make you something really, really nice with my Breville machine.
Sold. Well, unfortunately, NAMM isn't in April anymore, so I won't be able to do Spain and NAMM. But yeah, I really want to get back to LA. Yeah, but point being, like, then there's some players who are like completely against type, who when they play, there's like a fire and a rebelliousness, but when you talk to them, they're like very humble and soft spoken. And I would sort of think of somebody like Larnell Lewis, who's just like very, very polite and kind,
Yeah.
and then he
And
plays with this energy and this fire, right? Yeah,
even his playing's a bit polite. Oh my god, bro, that's so
yeah.
true.
He's also Canadian.
Oh, that is true. That's right, dude. His brother plays with the Weeknd. Isn't that crazy, Ricky?
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know it was his brother. I guess Lewis is a reasonably common name, so I wouldn't have put it
True.
together. But
Yeah.
that's crazy.
There's also Huey Lewis. You like his music?
Hot take. I actually think Huey Lewis in the News is pretty based. Like, hip to be square, like, kind of fucking rocks. And I know that's like the, I know that's like the American Psycho, like Christian Bale take. But I can't help it. I just think like, yeah.
I know.
And maybe that's just like my inner Caucasian.
Yeah. I'm not mad at it, bro.
I
like Huey Lewis. I don't care what people think.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It takes you back to an era. It could be
worse. It's not that bad at all. I mean, his whole "We Are the World" thing is so funny to me, man. You know how they did the whole "We Are the World" with Michael Jackson?
Oh yeah, there's that documentary about it on Netflix, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer. Is it good?
Oh, it's so good, bro. I mean,
nice.
Even before they came up with the documentary, I already knew how everything went down that day just by word of mouth or just seeing long videos on YouTube. And it's just it's that when they get to his section, because he has a solo right after Michael Jackson, and you just believe nothing you can hold. But like the first time it goes to him, he goes, nothing you can hold. Like, oh my God. It's like, dude, you just fucked up right after Michael Jackson.
That's no pressure, bro. Like,
right.
Michael's going to sing and then you get to go. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Dude, for real, man. But I find that so hilarious. But I love Huey Lewis. Anyways, Ricky Lewis is Larnell's brother, and he plays with The Weeknd. Dope drummer, too. So yeah, no, just
that's a musical family.
Larnell's politeness definitely comes out in his drumming.
Yeah, I guess that's one reason why it's so funny, because in high school, like I would see the good drummers and they all like had tattoos and smoked and they had like a 5. So I'm like, oh, that's how I have to be a good drummer. And by my 40s, I'm like, I've completely given up on being cool. It's just like I'll play how I play, and like my personality will come out in things. But I think that's important too, because like everybody sort of, if they're being authentic, their playing is going to gravitate toward what's inside them, whether you can see that overtly or whether it's buried inside them. And for you, it was like Dennis Chambers, Billy Cobham, and then like evolving that into your own thing. And for other people, it's something different. But I mean, this is going to sound harsh, but it's like, I think I can confidently say like the worst thing to be is like inauthentic, to just try to be a certain player because you think that's what you should be rather than because that's what you feel inside, right? I think we can safely say that.
I remember watching this interview. It was actually from the Common Ground DVD with Tony Royster, Dennis, and Billy Cobham with Bob Gatson, rest in peace. And I remember Dennis saying, what was the one thing that like you love to see the most, or what type of music or drummers? And he was like, if it comes from or what excites him in music. And he's like, if it's very honest. And he's like, John McLaughlin's very honest. Like he'll have this crazy smile and he'll like start laughing when like Dennis does something or Joey DiFrancesco does something. And like, you could just see this excitement, like as a child coming out of John McLaughlin. And that's honest, and I totally agree that goes a long way, man. Being honest and true to yourself. And if you are, people will grasp onto that, man. Like, for example, my last 2 years at the Big Potato, man, have really helped me to grow, not only as a musician, but also as a leader, because I've been the one leading the bands. And it sitting there, number one, it's such a historical landmark, musical landmark in the world, and not just at the Spud, just everywhere that I've been playing lately. Like seeing people's reactions, obviously, to the way I play music and the way I play the drums, right? Seeing their eyes like, oh my God, like holy, and then just feeling that boom, like in your face and you feel it here, the bass drum and like the smacking. I mean, I hit pretty hard too, but like the smack of the drums, and it's just like, oh my God, like seeing that firsthand is very exciting to me, and it's very honest, and it keeps me humble, and it keeps me honest too, to continue to push what I do on the drums. I don't have to be anyone else. Yeah. As much as I love Nate Wood, I know all his, like, dude, if I sit down and you tell me to play like Nate Wood, I'll play every little thing he plays, because I'm just such a student. There's nothing I can't play, really, unless it's like Virgil Donati, like polyrhythm, crazy stuff, like Alex Cohen, like that stuff is like, it would take me years to practice that, Mm-hmm. But if we're talking about specific lingo and vocabulary, then yeah, like any day. But that is not me. Like that, like like J.D. Beck, Louis Cole, like that drum and bass thing, which is dope. And there's a lot of irregular rhythms going on too, which is dope. It's like they went to India and studied the whole conical thing, or Carnatic techniques and shit, like because they do some of that stuff.
Right.
Like I love it and I can apply it, but I will apply it in my way,
Yeah, of course.
Because that's what I hear, and I feel like I tell the young kids, like, dude, yeah, like copy one of my phrases or chops for now while you understand it, and for you to understand the why. See, we go back. We have a motif in this conversation, bro. Feel the spirit of the motif. So the why, understand the why. So if you understand the why I play a certain thing a certain way, or I place it in a specific way, then you can graduate into forming it to you, who you are. You know what I mean? Like if I go, all right, cool. That's my fucking lick. I did that. All right. Learn it, memorize it, internalize it, let it seek in your soul, and then understand why. Then you can change it, and do it the way you do it. That way it becomes your identity and what's honest to you, because that's who you are as a person. You know what I mean? Maybe you're going to take a note away or two notes away, or maybe dynamically you're going to play it different, or maybe you're going to permutate the whole thing, or maybe you're going to orchestrate it differently. Like I don't give a fuck, but like do something different to it. Then that's when the honest identity starts to form. But that takes time. Like I spend a long time, people said I sounded a lot like Ronald Bruner. You know what I mean? And I get it, because he's one of my biggest inspirations. Eric Moore, Thomas Pridgen, there's a lot of similarities. But that was a period of time, and I never got mad at that, and I can still never get mad at that, because those are my influences, Like, oh man, like that sounded like a Jack DeJohnette left foot thing. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Yes, that's where I got it from, but I changed it, did it differently, and I'm still trying to do that every time, because dude, I'm influenced not just by like the hard fusion hitters, but like everyone, bro. Like Louis Cato, like, Yars Yoakley, Jamara Williams, like, dude, like, oh my God, my favorite drummer right now, dude, is Kendrick Scott and Justin Faulkner. Like those two guys, like those are my favorite guys. Obed Calvert is also a badass motherfucker. Like, so like, dude, I listen to everything. Dude, sometimes I'll go to sleep till 3 a.m. just on YouTube watching full performances of these guys. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's so much to grasp and so much to learn, but I'm gonna do it my way. You know what I mean?
Random one. What's your favorite Kendrick stuff? Because I got heavily into Kendrick in like the late 2000s. Like 0809.
My favorite Kendrick Scott. There's this video of him. It's a full performance. He's playing with. I'm gonna have to send it to you. I can't remember at the top of my head right now, but I know specifically what video I'm talking about. Funny story. That's not a funny story, but I was in San Francisco in 2022 playing a show with Cameron Graves at the San Francisco Jazz Collective, and he's been there for a minute now. And we were in the green room, and we were gonna go walk to buy some drinks, and he was outside just chilling. I'm like, oh my God, that's Kendrick Scott in my head, right? And I'm like, Kendrick, I'm a huge fan. Oh my God, I love your playing. Like, Jesus. And I was just like, and he's like, oh man, really nice to meet you. What do you do? I'm like, well, I'm Andy. I play drums. I'm like, oh man, cool. Well, hopefully I get to hear you play one of these days. I'm like, yes. By the way, I'm a huge fan. I like his Oracle stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but
the
there's
second
there's
album especially is really, really great.
Which one?
The second album especially, that opening track.
Oracle too.
It starts with like the Bruce Lee quote or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. That I like that album, but then there's other cats he's played with. I'm gonna have to send you the link because I can't. I'm brain farting right now. And there's this performance of him, bro. Oh my God! Like the hi-hats he's playing are like what I hear in my head, what my hi-hats need to sound like. I remember I text Mike. And I'm like, yo, what hats are these? We need these hats. He's like, yeah, bro, those are the hats. So obviously there's some Zildjian hats, but that performance, like those hats are like insane.
Zildjian, the second greatest cymbal maker on earth.
Yeah, the greatest cymbal maker on earth. Wait, is it Meinl? Is that what you're gonna say?
Actually, the third after Meinl and Paiste.
After Meinl and Paiste.
Yeah. Zildjian, pretty good cymbals.
Just doesn't do it for me anymore. unless you have some very old stuff or some like, or you're Kendrick Scott or Marcus Gilmore and you just grab shit from the vault.
By the way, you also shouted out Jamire Williams, which is like a deep cut, because like late 2000 aughts, like even then he was like super slept on, but like just doing
he's still slept on.
Brilliant stuff.
You know why?
And like, yeah, still really slept on. Yeah.
He's dude. He's like Marcus Gilmore, Justin Brown, Ronald. Like he's there. Like he's there.
Exactly.
He's their generation. I met him a couple times because I grew up in the West Coast in LA. And those guys were like they're still the guys, but during that era, they were the young guys coming up in 2006, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out about him before I met any of those guys because I took lessons with Dave Village, which is why I met those guys. Mm-hmm. Dave was in that circle back then. So when Shed Sessions Volume 2 came out, Justin Brown shouted him out. I'm going to have to show you that DVD. So Justin Brown, he's shouting out Marcus Gilmore. He shouts out Jamire Williams. There's like another cat he shouts out there. And I'm like, Jamire Williams, I'm going to have to YouTube this or Google this, because of I was already a big fan in 2007 of those guys. Yeah. And he's saying Jamire Williams, I might have to investigate who this is. And bro, like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I remember he did a Bigford shoot. You remember when doing I think it was the Fortress sessions?
I'm trying to remember. Who was he playing with for that shoot?
No, it's just that one it's a Bigford shoot.
It's just solo drums?
Just solo, yeah. And
like I've seen all of them.
Be beautiful. Oh my God. And like I wish people would know more about him, but I don't even know if he's on social media. Do you know?
Nothing of his has popped up in my feed in ages. So yeah, but I should do a video about him. Yeah, so slept on. Deep cuts. Yeah, I love just nerding out about great drummers and drummers. I did want to ask you about the kind of groove versus chop breakdown before we go, just because like that's been a question of endless fascination for me. And tell me how this lands. Like, I think maybe we've talked about this offline too, but there's like this misconception that like groove and chops are exclusive and that like choppers don't know how to groove. And I've always kind of felt like you don't develop that level of like fine-grained sensation of time and subdivision without also being able to put that into beats that you play. But I guess a question would be like, you're somebody who does both really well. Like I've seen you playing with bands where you're hardly playing any chops at all, but you're just like laying down a solid backbeat. Did you need to work on those two things separately, or in your mind was it all kind of an offshoot of the same tree?
I had to work on those two things separately, because that's just the way my brain works. I have to see. Here comes a term. I have to subdivide everything. So I made myself, when I was really, really in the shed, I was doing bro, like 8 to 12 hours a day. There were certain days where I did 14 hours a day for like 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And certain days I chose to only practice and make sure my feel was good, you know. So I would purposely put all these albums that I know are like the heaviest groove hitters, and I would try to emulate exactly their touch, which is a very hard thing to do because feel and groove, I mean, especially feel, you know, uh, is something you have to develop by playing with people that have feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, again, very lucky enough to play at a church where the MD had like produced a lot of the gospel records, big ones in the 90s. He's a keyboard player. And then Paul Jackson Jr. was the guitar player there, and it's like, wow, Jesus, Paul Jackson Jr. from Thriller and all that stuff. And they really, really pounded on me, man, when it came to feel and touch. And it's like, dude, you're just playing two on beat. Like you got to lay back. Like you got to find a sweet spot within being like behind the beat and on the beat. Like there's a sweet triplet feel there that makes everything just feel good. And I played at that church for like 2-3 years on and off. And I went there because of one of my close friends. He's a bass player. He got me in there. His name's Edwin Carranza. Shout out. And that's how I was able to develop what you guys hear when I do R&B, or I do stuff where it's not required for me to play crazy stuff. So fast forward to the shed, I would put these albums and I would play like Mint Condition, Chris Dave or Stokely, Questlove, on D'Angelo's, all his stuff, or some like freaking Yogi Horton shit, Clyde Stubblefield. So I would sit down, practice that for hours, like literally. Can you imagine someone like me not playing a single chop for hours? But it's what I had to do. I knew that in order for the world to see all the crazy glam chops, crazy chop suey, in order to get there, first you got to see, first you got to see the pocket. First you got to see the groove, and first you got to see that I can do it, because no one goes immediately into like the crazy stuff. That comes later, and now that's where I'm at now. Like I again, going back to what we were talking about, I pick and choose who I play with. So if I want to go crazy ham all the time, then I'm gonna do my thing. My projects, like my gigs. So I did separate both, and I made sure that I would sometimes set up a metronome and try to play an eighth note behind it, just to develop that kind of like Dilla-esque kind of thing, at the same time. Like just a bunch of things like that, man. I separated from chops or vocab, phrasing on the drums, just to make sure that my feel and pocket was like super, super solid.
I think this is a good like bite-sized conversation. Like I feel like we've covered a lot of bases, and yeah, it's been great. I think people get a really good idea of what makes you tick, how you approach stuff.
Dude, I sent you a video that I still have to dissect in order to explain with my thought process. You know how I send you this one lick?
Yeah.
It's like this phrase.
I figured you
So
were
I'm
just
curious
busy.
to,
Yeah.
what do you, I'm curious to know what you think when you see me play, or you see like Mason or Mike, or what do you, because I want to explain it, but I want to explain it the way you explain things, because you're like a wizard when it comes to explaining.
This might be a fun excuse for me to get into it more. Because I'm always trying to like build a bridge from what I can play intuitively to what I see players I want to emulate doing. And yeah, I'd have to watch again, but yeah, in the Vegas terms, it just seems like the same way we play anything is by making chunks, right? So it's we don't think of individual words when we make sentences. We have
Right.
sort of phrases that we can go to, and just for instance, like flowing down the toms and singles, and then either landing on the hi-hat with the left or the right with a bark, like on kind of a downbeat, or else receiving the hands with the snare drum in some kind of a diddle, so it's symmetrical, right? You do a 5 or 7 in singles on the floor tom, and then you get back to the other side of the kit with some sort of even number of diddles. Like that's a chunk. So like that's in my head, and once my body knows how to do it, not only can I play it faster, but I can take my head out of it needs to be this number of strokes on each tom. I can start to think just about making phrases, and for me, as I assume it is for you when I'm playing, it's this physical and auditory process. So like it feels physically interesting and good to make shapes on the drums at the same time as I'm like looking for things that are interesting to my ear. And
right,
I would assume what's going on when you or Mason or Mike play is just branches on branches on branches of that. And yeah, I think maybe this is the year, but like I notice like there's some stuff in Andy's solo that's intuitive to me, and then there's some stuff like that seems like chunked singles in odd groups that go from one drum to another is sort of one category, and then in even groups where it's even harder and you kind of have to cross over.
Right.
But that stuff's just together. Actually, my friend Dom Palambi, who does the video game music, like when we jammed, he had a bunch of that stuff together. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. So I think that might be a stepping stone, is like start to ingrain some of those patterns for myself, and then just experiment with making phrases as I'm listening to more of that style of music, and hopefully the opaque stuff will become more transparent. Do you know that Mason shed with Sharik from ages ago that was on YouTube?
Which one? Because there's a couple. There's like 5 of them.
Well, there's one that I think is that Mason published himself. That was like in a church. It's probably like the oldest one. But I don't even necessarily know what my point is, but it's like I felt like with that one I could kind of see the hyper objects that Mason was making, like at a distance, but it was just like sped up and like rotated a weird way, and then with like a dose of cleanliness and showmanship on top of that, and that added together is like 10 years worth of work. But I don't know how does that land. So again, I don't necessarily remember the specific chop that you sent me. I have to look again. But like, is any of this resonating?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely something we have to talk about.
But yeah, I think this is maybe a good stopping point, or a good stopping point for part 1. And then definitely we should do a part 2 before too long. But before I let you go, where would you send people to check you out? Instagram mainly? He has a killer Instagram, folks.
Yeah, mainly Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel. I'm trying to put more of the full performances there. Like complete songs, complete tunes. Mm-hmm. So I would say YouTube and Instagram.
I'll definitely put those in the show description.
Yeah, definitely check out Multiple Personalities from Covality. Check out The Golden Age from Wires. I'm on drums on that stuff.
From Wires, like Wires?
Yeah, Wires. Okay. Wires. It's another. It's more of a psychedelic prog rock band, punk band I play with. It's like Mars Volta meets King Crimson kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
So it's very hard hitting. I do that. That band's called Wires. Wires. There's also this album from Scary Poo Party called Doom Hologram. Definitely check out that whole album, but there's a song called Sun, Moon, Earth, and I do drum and bass the whole thing, and I have a drum solo in there that I'm proud of. So check that out too. That's Scary Poo Party. The Little Debbies, that's Live from the Baked Potato. You should check that out. That's also on all streaming platforms. That one's pretty killing. It's very very open, rhythmically open, melodically open. It's all improv. So, one thing would lead us to an actual song. So that's a pretty cool album too.
Nice. And when does the new Covality record drop, hopefully?
That's probably not going to come out till early mid 2025.
I see. But you're going into the studio in April for it.
Yeah, there's already 3 songs done drum wise. Like I already did. They're bonkers. So that one's probably gonna be till next year, bro. But I'm very excited. We're very proud of this one, dude. We can't wait for everyone to hear it.
That's awesome. I can't wait. Well, sweet. Really, really appreciate you making the time. It's been great to catch up, and hopefully I can get to LA one of these days. Continue the hang.
Okay.
They got to move NAMM back to April. That April was perfect for me.
I know, dude. This year, yeah, NAMM was interesting. I was only there for like 3 hours on Saturday, just because I had to go play, and then I left. That was the only time I was there. Yeah, okay. But I heard there was a lot of companies that didn't go.
Yeah, well, mine all didn't go. Yeah, I was asking them like, "You guys want me to go? Like, you want me to do something for you?" Like, no, we haven't gone for like the past 2 years. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, mine wasn't there. DW wasn't there. A bunch of people weren't there, bro.
Anyway, man, really, really great to hang. Yeah, appreciate the time. Yeah, and I'll ping you before this goes up on the interwebs. But thanks so much, man. It's awesome.
Absolutely, man. Much love, Nate. And we definitely gotta do a video together soon, man. Like an actual drum video. We've been talking about it since forever. We got to make that happen.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, man. Be safe in Spain. Have fun.
All right. Be safe in California. Take care.